Welcome to our 6th devlog. This is version 2.10, and this is the big release right before our alpha Steam release, which is happening on Monday, August 16.
Woo!
And what we're looking at here is our new user interface.
Okay, so obviously new borders, new color, new textures. The whole ability bar looks totally...
Yeah, kind of a darker feel, kind of a gothic look, much more matching the aesthetic I think that we're going for the game. I'm personally really happy with it.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more kind of dark and gothic looking, representing our future, plans for gameplay and whatnot. More like Diablo style, less like Maple Story or whatever, something look fun and light. So it's a little bit heavier of a game, obviously.
And yeah, I think our artist Strixel, shout out to him. He did a really good job, just detailing all the borders and all the nice little touches. And we also now have a wisdom here. I'll just show that.
Right. So wisdom bar on the ability bar.
Yeah, right on the
keep
ability.
track of. That's nice. Looks
Yeah,
good.
which is nice. Like, people actually weren't knowing when they were leveling up. It wasn't as obvious, so that's a little nicer.
So there's still a few things that we need to put in. The icon for when you have a level up is going to be coming in, right? The little plus. And also the buttons at the bottom you'll see are still sort of like the plain gray squares. We have new buttons coming.
Yeah, it's a bit of a work in progress there, and
yeah.
we'll probably be changing around these menus too at some point as we add more.
Right, we might end up making
stuff.
them icons instead of words if we can fit those in. We'll see how it goes. So far, so good though.
Yeah, but I'm really happy with this, and I'm happy it's in time for our release. We can get some nice looking screenshots up on our Steam page.
Definitely good.
But as for our alpha video today, we have something a little bit different. We're not going to do a playthrough. We actually have a bit of a slideshow prepared just to talk through some of our plans for the future and our vision for the game.
Right. Okay. Let's go ahead and roll the slide then.
And you've seen this image if you played the game.
What?
It's our wallpaper.
No.
Yeah, I faded a little bit so it could all fit.
It looks completely different now. I didn't even recognize it.
Couldn't even well, this is you, the player, right? And this is the journey. This is the game. This is the mystery.
And this is our vision. So
This
what
is
is
our
our
vision.
vision, Jake?
Well, we're gonna walk through with a few points.
Cool.
Let's see. Okay, number one, dynamic world. This here is a picture of GTA 2, which is a pretty old game, but
Pretty great game though.
pretty great game, top-down view. And the one thing that I really loved about this game, playing as a kid, is just how alive the world felt. You had the different street gangs running around kind of doing their own thing. And if you were able to lead the gang to another gang area, they'd have like a little turf war there, and you could just watch it play. Well, you didn't even need to do anything. And that's something I think we really want for the Doors of Trithias. A game world that organically changes over time. Another good example just came to mind would be Mount & Blade. You're moving around a Mount & Blade with your army. And there's other armies moving on the map, and those armies will fight and take over bases and do all sorts of things, even while you're not even engaging with them.
Right. It really makes you feel like there's a world that's going on, and you have the privilege to just be there and experience it. And it's not a game that's revolving around you and just waiting for you to do things so that they can respond. They will respond to what you do, but they'll respond organically in a way that it doesn't matter if you were there or not, it still would have gone through and something would have happened anyways. Which is, I don't know, I feel like it's missing in a lot of more modern games that have been coming out lately. It's just all about what the player does, exactly, everyone's just waiting for you, the hero, to do everything, and everyone else is totally useless. It's like they go on about their business, and if you want to help or you want to harm them, well, that's an option, and they're going to respond accordingly how you think they would, right?
I think that's so true. Like modern games where they have the really good graphics, but they need to streamline the experience. Where, as an indie game, we can risk having a more crazy, chaotic sort of things happening.
Definitely.
And as well, not always balanced. Depending on if you're going to walk into a battle going on and, gremlins fighting bandits or whatever's happening, it's who knows what sort of events are going to emerge and if they're fair to the player or not. The world's alive.
I mean, fairness isn't always going to come into it, but at least being able to maybe give you a chance is what we, it's got to still have the opportunity to have some fun as well.
And a way to interact with it as well.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Oh, yes, so this is a map. This is our overworld. You can see here with this grid. And just to give an idea how that might look, how influences in the game might look, we have here, each tile potentially would have influence factors. So this specific tile we're saying 0.2 influence from gremlins, 0.1 from bandits. So as the player is playing, maybe they wiped out a gremlin colony, and then the influence of the gremlins would decrease in that area. Or like bandits are moving in that area, and then there'd be a lot more bandits, and you'd see bandit camps, and they would start to infect the castles, and that would involve random events. Maybe the player's going to get attacked by bandits while they're walking.
And so you don't imagine us actually seeing these numbers. It's more like numbers that are in the background that have evolved through your actions and through other random events, correct?
Yeah, this is kind of how the game, exactly. This is how the game system would represent it.
Right.
Although there might be ways the player could like gain knowledge of what's going on the map. They wouldn't see it as numbers.
Right, but there might be warning flags that pop up saying, "Oh, the Raiders or the Vikings or whatever have just shipped up, and now all along the coast." If you put your mouse over there, it might hover over like a flag effect that says, "Warning: there are Vikings raiding here, and they're a high-level enemy." So if you go there, you are risking being, mobbed by high-level enemies or
that'd be a really cool way to do it.
Right.
Another way would be an inn. You talk to someone at the inn and they say, hey, there's something in this area, or this area's been taken over, and then maybe you get an icon there. Or if you have a skill. True. So some kind of mapping skill or cartography or that kind of thing.
And also the background of it as well. It's like there might be rumors that are spreading amongst the village that say there's a gremlin king that's rising up and making an army to the northeast or something like that. But and that's happening, whether you like it or not, or whether you hear about it or not. So you may or may not actually, if you don't want to talk to anyone, then you might just miss out on all the information, and you just get run into a bunch of gremlins over and over, and you're like, what is happening? But then you come back to town, they're like, I hear that gremlin king is still on the loose, and you're like, oh, there's a gremlin king thing going on. Okay.
Like an actual reason
right.
that's happening in the game.
So.
And just also to explain this circle, this was kind of giving an idea of an area of influence. So if this area was influencing the region, so if this was a village or a safe space, maybe it would have the influence to clear out bandits and non-ally units. So
right, there could be a little bit of a safeguard area that you could also potentially influence by maybe helping out the guards, rearming them, etc., and then increase their influence.
Roads would be another example. We're planning to be safer, so you can go the longer way on the road, or hey, risk traveling through the dark woods.
Right. Yeah.
Second point, living dungeons. So we saw a bit of this with the Blood Leech. There was 1 or 2 releases ago. This was like the first update really getting into that. The main idea being the NPCs have goals and they move around the dungeons doing their own things, separate from the player. So similar to the living world idea, but here we're talking on the scale of the dungeons.
Right.
It isn't just every single thing in that dungeon is just sitting waiting for the player.
Right.
There's an actual something interacting and.
Right. The other entities in your in the area have different goals. They're trying to accomplish things. They're there for a reason. They're not just hanging out waiting to be fodder for you to harvest XP. Although that can become the case if you want it to, probably most of the time. But you might not want it to. So there's going to be some decision making going on, and actually some other interesting things going on that you might not fully understand when you first see it until you experience it a little bit.
I think that's part of the fun of a game is figuring out what's going on, exploring. And to do that, to make it engaging for the player, you need an interesting system. So that system is interacting with itself. It can create something like really unpredictable. At least that's what we're hoping.
Even to us, yeah.
Even to us. Because ultimately we're trying to make a game that even we would want to play, and we would want to play over, and we want to be surprised too.
And we want stories to come out of it where it's like, what happened in your playthrough? It's like, well, these guys ended up being at war for some reason, but then another thing stepped in, right, and then helped them out, and then you end up siding with a bunch of golems for some reason, even though that shouldn't be possible. And next thing you know, you're making new friends. It's, I don't know, some crazy stuff can be potentially happening in these.
Yeah, that's an awesome example. Of course, we'll see how it plays out as we implement it. I mean, this is more a vision. We don't know exactly the features, but this is kind of the area where
right.
planning.
It's starting and it's going, so
yeah,
it's getting there.
Magic.
Ooh. Maybe
Joel, you want to talk a little bit about our plans for upcoming Magic systems?
Right. So we do have pretty ambitious goals for Magic. It's pretty fleshed out at this point, but we don't have all the fine details in yet. There's going to be a lot going on with Magic in terms of really bringing in the realms and the lore background into it. So that'll be really interesting. One of the big things about when we start releasing Magic is we're also going to be releasing the Doors of Trithius, the sort of namesake of the game. different realms that you can travel to. You can figure out the different types of magic or that they would use in the specific realm. So different magic schools are tied to the realms is what they're going to be. You're going to need to find artifacts that allow you to what do you call it? Attune to the realm, and then use those artifacts to power your magic. So you can't just use any magics that you feel like. It's going to be something you have to work towards, and it'll feel like a bit of an achievement to unlock different types of skills. Yeah.
Yeah, I think partly how we're thinking of it is you could try to be a mage from the start, but it's a much harder difficulty.
Certainly.
And I think that works well for these kind of games because magic, as you're saying, is going to be more complicated. You need a lot more pieces, but then there's bigger payoff. So kind of like a trade-off there. Plus, we get to sprinkle all these items all throughout the procedurally generated world, so more objects for the player to look for, more things to interact with.
Yeah, more to look forward to in a playthrough for sure.
Guilds. So the idea here is guild halls, similar to the Elder Scrolls series, which I think we've mentioned before, that we're very inspired by. Guild halls appearing in towns and cities throughout the world, and these would be kind of aligning with different gameplay play styles. So you have a magic guild would help a player along if they're doing magic, warrior guild if they're going the melee route. Of course, other types of unique guilds as we come up with them.
Right, not just guilds, factions,
Or,
other types of groups that you can run into. Wild barbarians and the nomadic barbarians or whatever. We can have potentially other realms have other sentient beings that you could either assist or destroy, etc. And those could also give you different types of rewards. So yeah, guilds is sort of an all-encompassing word for
Like the faction system.
groups that you could join, help, etc. That can give you quest lines or lead to all kinds of cool encounters.
And as well providing like some more lore and some of the background and unique skills and lessons, because we do ultimately want quite a number of skills.
Right. There will be trainers for sure, right? I think we have that for sure as a thing.
Yeah, so some of them maybe are locked like behind some of the guild buildings, but we'll see. We'll see how we do it. They'll just part of the procedural generation for the towns at some point. I think it'd be so cool. You come to a town and you're like, oh, cool, we found this guild building. Maybe we'll join them on this playthrough, or maybe not.
And how can you? Like, what requirements do you need? Is there alternate ways to join? Can you find someone in the world and help them, and then they say, hey, come join the guild. You're clearly a friend. Stuff like that. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
Open up different pathways and different playthroughs.
This is probably the more static, one of the more static elements in the game, because we have a lot of procedural content, almost everything, and I think this is going to have to be a little more pre-packaged, pre-designed. I think that does work well, though, with these randomized games, where you have some elements that are kind of pre-prepared and designed, and then other elements that's the randomness side. So this is kind of our consistency element.
True. That we will need sort of quote-unquote main quest lines. So that would probably be the biggest factions would have the sort of main quest lines, I would think. As of yet, we don't have like a regular main story quest line, aside from stopping the evil wizard from destroying the world potentially,
and clearing the main faction dungeons. Yeah.
Right. But aside from that, we don't have a main storyline for that. So most of your story will have to come from the guilds and from your own experiences, basically, in terms of what your goals are.
That's a good way of putting it. Yep. Discovery. So here we're just trying to get at this idea where we want lots of content in this game, but not all of it immediately visible. Not show all our cards right away. I love it if you're playing a game and you've been playing for like a lot of hours and you're like deep in some dungeon and you find something new. You find some doorway. You find some little hole, some little secret thing. And like that to me makes it so much more fun and engaging because you really don't know what you're going to find on your adventure while you're playing. And to be able to create that experience, I think, is like a big part of our vision. Sometimes just luck. Maybe you're in the right place at the right time. Something appears. Or maybe you need to be high enough a level and you can like kill the guardian guarding the door and then you get through.
Right.
Or
secrets within secrets. Like in, I don't know if you ever played Dark Souls a lot. I know you did a little bit, but like in that Blight Town, you can go into this like way back into some corner and there's like behind some chest, you can hit some wall and it's like a fake wall and you can pass through it. And there's like a secret item behind it. And you're like, oh, okay, cool, I find a secret item. But then if you hit another secret wall behind that thing, it leads to a whole nother area of the game that you otherwise couldn't get to.
So like the secret has a secret.
The secret has a secret and it's huge. And it's this huge area that you would never get to otherwise unless you found this secret. So I think we're not so worried about people running into absolutely everything all the details, all the work we put into the game on one playthrough. It's going to be like you have to play the game a bunch of times, and every time there's a chance you're going to run into something new, which is going to be exciting.
Absolutely. I think that's a perfect example of the secrets within secrets. Like, I would love to do that. The trick is, of course, mixing with the procedural content in an interesting way, because we don't want them to appear too much, but we want them to appear sometimes. So it's like a bit of a balancing act, and that'll be ongoing, right, as we
and the more complex you make these secrets within secrets, the more chance of error there can be, potentially not being able to access them to a player, which can be annoying, or, I don't know, bugs or whatever, stuff like that just pop up. But anyways, that's definitely something to look forward to.
The goal, kind of summing up here. What do we want to do? We want to make a massive procedurally generated fantasy world. We want a huge world. Right now, it's an island. It's one island, but there'll be more islands, more spaces. We've talked about this. More realms. We talked about the realms. And here as well, I want to point out, in terms of our process, the Gardner approach to game design. So George R.R. Martin, the author, in an interview, he spoke about, in terms of writers, the difference between architects and gardeners. And an architect they have the whole plan at the start. They draw everything out and they build that exact structure. Right. Whereas a gardener treats it as a garden, and they go and they tend the garden, they weed it every day, and they just kind of wait and see what appears. They have an idea-ish, they have a vision.
They plant their seeds into like the way they want their garden to grow, but then it doesn't always turn out to be exactly the way that they thought it would. And then they decide, hey, maybe if we expand this area on this side, it'll be like way more beautiful. It'll work nicely if we add a little bit more in this area. And so that's sort of our idea, is that we are going to continue to make it better and better and better after laying down this foundation that we now have. We now have a lot of the tools to keep building up this garden and make it more beautiful and more interesting.
And I think that's partly why we did our alpha release now, is that we did feel like we have that core.
Yeah, exactly.
And just getting in the audience to get the feedback as we continue to grow. And our track record's pretty good. So we've been in full serious development for more than 6 months now. We haven't missed an update, so every 2 weeks.
Right. There have been 1 or 2 that we did it took 3 weeks, I think there was one, and this one is 1 week instead of 2 weeks. But yeah, other than that, we've haven't had any big lulls. We've been consistent work ethic, I think, has been pretty good for us.
I think that's a good sign for the indie scene, if people can trust the developer and that you're going to come back to that game a month later and there's going to be a bunch of new stuff.
Right. Or even a year later.
Or a year later.
You check it out for a while, you play it a bunch, you get sick of it, you turn away, you go play some sports outdoors, you come back a year later and everything's different, everything's new, and you're basically rediscovering the game again. So we're hoping to have that as an experience for players as well, where it's good the first time and the next time you come back it's even better, and then the next time you come back it's even better. Or you just tune in every couple of weeks and just play a little bit every couple of weeks as well. That's also definitely a good option.
Well said. Exactly. Anything you want to add here for our video right before our first Alpha Steam release?
Well, I mean, just a big thanks to everyone who's been involved and helped us out, and a big hand off to Jake here for really getting this whole project going. He's been really the mad scientist behind this whole thing and creating the whole engine himself, and not an engine, but building it off of Java and all that. It's been a real pleasure to work with you, Jake.
Well, thank you. And it has been a team effort. I don't think I could have done it myself. And as you said as well, thank you to all our testers who've given us lots of feedback, and all our design discussions. Joel got us this far, so...
Yeah, but I mean, this ain't the end at all. This is basically the beginning. So.
No. We'll see you in the next video, guys. Thanks for watching.
All right, have a great one.